Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
So let's move on to a lighter topic, man. I'm tired of talking about people getting assassinated and getting killed, man. Let's move over to some economic topics. And
Fed lowered the rate by 25 basis points.
Say that one more time.
The Fed just lowered the rate last week.
I remember. That's right. So that's going to be interesting to see because there is no real economic rationale for doing it. And so I really, want to get a sense of what that's going to do long term for housing, what that's going to do for inflationary pressures, what that's going to do for the cost of our foods and our utilities and all of that. And in the course of one of our conversations that we had offline, we were talking about different companies and their impact on housing prices because, my son is actually here from Brooklyn visiting right now. And one of the conversations that we've had in the past is just how much more difficult it is to acquire housing compared to what it was like when I first started out, and I don't know if I told you, but the first house I bought was $69,000. Like that is a fraction of a down payment nowadays, right? Exactly.
You say $69,000 a house. You're talking about a house on the bayou in Louisiana.
Right.
$69,000.
Right. That's dilapidated. This was a fully intact house. It was my first house. I got it with the 3% down. So,
wow.
For $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, I had a house and I didn't even actually live in it. I bought it to help my dad out. So my dad lived in it. And then he lived there for 3 or 4 years. And then I sold it and made about $20,000. And then I used that to buy my second house. And then I just kept building from there. Our kids don't have
my first house I bought was $181,000.
Crazy.
In 2001. And I put $17,000 down.
You won't see that anymore.
My mortgage payment was $1,200.
Right. Exactly.
If I had kept that property, if I had kept that property, I would be 5 years away from paying it off.
If you didn't refinance or any of that stuff,
If I just held on to it, I kept it. I mean, there was no reason to do it. Because think about that. I remember when I signed that, I went, how am I ever going to pay off a 30-year note?
Right. It's so interesting how things seem in real time, right? I just don't see a future in which people will look back and say, man, I remember that house was so cheap. It was $1 million. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. So I really want to do some digging, Chris, just to dig into your brain a little bit, because you've definitely spent a lot more time than I have on this particular topic. And you were talking about how different large companies are buying up, large amounts of property and how they're repositioning the market and in some ways kind of being market setters as it relates to home prices and all of that. Just for our audience, why don't you enlighten us and show us what you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that when you look on this on the internet and you research it, there are some people that say it's not happening, and then there's a big group of people that say it is happening. And obviously the data is not going to show it. I mean, a lot of times when we see stuff like this, we don't know it until it's actually happened. And the reality is that you do have big institutions that are buying houses. You have big institutions that are buying houses. I don't want to mention any names, but they are big, like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, those guys. And it's become an investment world. And pre to the 2008 market collapse, or 2008, the mortgages, that's exactly why it happened. You were buying credit default swaps, right? And they were using over leveraged assets and packaging them inside good assets, right? And this is what created the whole problem that Michael Burry went, oh my gosh, here's what's going to happen, and shorted it and became famous. Well, you have institutions not just selling real estate debt, but they're buying it. It's so crazy. If you've seen one of these yet, where you drive by and you see a whole subdivision with like 50, 100, 200 houses in it, and none of them are for sale. They're only for rent. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they go up everywhere in Texas. So you literally drive down the street and you see a subdivision with 50 to 100 houses in it, master plan, looks like Oh, cool, I'm going to go there. Where's the models? No, they're just for rent. Now renting, right? So you're getting to this point where people are going, okay, how can I afford a house? And then they did the numbers. What was it like? The income to housing ratio. Anybody can Google it. You can look it up and see the difference between the baby boomers and now. And the average baby boomer was like negative $200 every month at the end of it when they were coming up. And then you compare it to the average millennial. The average millennial is like $2,200 negative every month, right? So you could see the stark contrast in the ability to earn money and the cost of goods and services. Yes, everything has gotten infinitely more expensive, but the wage hasn't increased. And then you have all these layoffs that are happening. Who's going to buy all these houses when all these people can't make their mortgage payments, right? And you're starting to see that kind of stuff happen. So the Fed lowers rates. What's going to happen? All the people that own or that have all this money are going to buy these houses, which again creates this artificial look like there's demand. But there is demand. People want to live in a house, but they don't have the money to do it. So who buys the houses? People that have money, that don't live in them, and then they rent them to people who don't have the money to buy them. Because these people are in debt and they don't have savings. Because that's the biggest issue. People will probably figure out how to make the monthly payment. The problem is they don't have the money for the down payment, or they don't have the money to take care of the house when something breaks. Because home ownership is real. When you own a home, you got to pay when that roofing bill comes, when that AC bill comes, when all those things break, you got to pay for that. Right? And most people go, oh, well, I pay for it when I rent anyways. Yeah, you're right, but you have to pay that rent every month. Otherwise, you leave the house, right? So you're paying for it. But the problem is that most people don't even have the discipline to pay for that stuff outside of a rental payment where it's automatically included. So the stove, like, for example, there's this huge castle for sale in Scotland on a remote island in Scotland. It's massive. It's huge. And it's only for sale for less than $1 million. It's like 950,000 US. Wow. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I went, yeah, but you'll go broke trying to maintain the damn thing because you need like 100 people to live there with you to take care of it. Right? Mm-hmm. So you've gotten to this point right now where people cannot afford houses anymore because they followed a system. And that system was to go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get into debt, and everything will be great. Well, people have gotten into debt and now they don't know how to get out of debt and they can't pay to get out of debt and they're not getting what they thought they were going to get for the debt. And Tucker Carlson was talking about this the other day, about how this is going to sow the seeds of a revolution because people just get into debt and you can't do anything anymore now. And that's the system you're in. You're just constantly in debt and you'll never get out of debt. To which the other person he was sitting with reply was like, that kind of crap won't ever happen in America because too many people own guns. It's just very true. It's very true. There are, revolutions and stuff like that happen in a lot of countries because people don't have the right to bear arms, right? Well, when you have a country that has the right to bear arms, the attitude changes a little differently, I think. But yes, you have large financial institutions buying houses, packaging it in certain ways where it's obscure, so you don't see that. And yeah, that saying, you will own nothing and be happy, I don't know if that comes to America via the normal socialist route. I think it comes through corporate ownership, and everyone will be a slave to the corporation. Socialism 1.0 or communism 1.0 was an individual dictator owned everything, the government owned everything. At this point, it's kind of almost like the government and private corporations got together and figured out a way to become one entity and work with each other. And just create this debtors society where people just get in debt and stay in debt and never get out of debt.
So when you look at now
we're starting to see it, or the point where you can't even buy a house anymore unless you, like, for example, if you make less than $250,000 a year in Southern California or California in general, how do you survive?
I don't know.
Because 250,000 puts you in a 24% tax bracket, somewhere like that, or is it, no, puts you into 20. It's higher than that, right? Because I think 198 is 24, up to 198 is a 24% tax bracket. Anything higher than that, so, and then add on California state tax, like you're paying. What is that? Like close to 50? What is that?
30, somewhere 30, between 34 and 35%.
Almost. Oh no! I mean, because shoot, but what is California state tax? 13% or 12%?
Tax California.
I don't even know what it is, but it's something high like that. It's been a minute for me. So if you're paying, let's say 25% federal plus another 13%, yeah, 40%, 38%, you're paying almost 40%. So if you're making $250,000 a year and you're paying, let's just say 38% in taxes, bro, like really?
Yeah, it's pretty high.
You're taking home 155. So 155 that's only $13,000 a month, Len. $13,000 a month?
Right.
How do you survive off of that?
When you look at housing, transportation, food,
Family of four.
medical,
Family of four. Husband, wife, son, daughter. How do you survive?
Right. So it's crazy. And
how do you buy a house?
that's the point. And so do you think there should be some type of legislation or some type of public backlash about what's happening? Because, like you said, different internet sources, it looks like what's happening with, because you have Blackstone, you have BlackRock, you have State Street, you talk about Vanguard. Okay, so you've got these companies that hide behind this idea that they're not investing in the physical asset, they're buying the real estate investment trust. But the reality is as
they're
what you said,
buying what matters. They're buying what matters, which is the control and the access.
That's exactly right.
And see, the thing is that most of us don't know. Most people, it's like access is expensive. And the asset is expensive. They have that, and the control. Control and the access. That's what they want. That's what that's what you want. You don't want anything else. That's what they have. So on the surface level, yeah, it looks great. But when you're like what you just said, control of the REIT, control of these things, control of the actual, that's what it is.
Right.
And
yeah, and it just
doing it with your 401k.
Right.
You're doing it with your 401k.
Yes, and there are real assets that are actually being physically purchased with that. And so, but the thing is it seems, as I was doing my research, that they're able to hide behind one or two layers. It's not like you have an agent of the company saying, I'm going to go buy XYZ house. No, they buy large neighborhoods of homes all at one time, several layers removed, so they're not necessarily directly tied to it individually. And so they can take a real estate investment trust or a REIT and have lots of different funds that come together to purchase these properties where they can suggest that they're not a part of the transaction, but the reality is that individuals are being priced out of these billion-dollar and multi-billion-dollar funds, asset funds, and then they drive up the prices, and then people are priced out of the housing market. And the other thing is that it seems like there's this strain on building as well. And so when you have a supply issue, you have fewer homes that are being built, and therefore you have fewer people that are getting access to these homes. There's a housing development probably about 3 miles away from my house. And so I sit on a pretty nice size, lot. Like I've got a big backyard. I've got, RV parking, even though I don't have an RV. And I've got, I've got a front yard, and I've got, I'm on a cul-de-sac. So half of the cul-de-sac, I've got shrubbery and stuff like that. So, you could play flag football in my backyard, and you could, have a little soccer game in my front yard. Like these homes over here, the lot that I have, they fit 3 or 4 homes on it where my one house fits. And so you've got, like I understand if we live in an urban area like a San Francisco or Los Angeles, where there's lots of people here and there's a need for homes to be built in a compact manner just because it's landlocked. But that's not the case. I live in a suburban neighborhood. And so what it seems to me is as though it's as if different developers go and buy large chunks of land, and they over index for homes and under index for yard space, family spaces, so they can maximize their profits. And I just I just think that there's just this gradual erosion of the quality of life that's necessary to keep a population stable. Because
what do I need you in your backyard for when I have Apple and Google streaming in your house all the time?
That's right. Exactly. What's the whole purpose of kicking a soccer ball outside when I can go play FIFA soccer on my TV? And I just think
you've seen my house in California before I moved, right? Mm-hmm. It was great, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. But then you look at where I'm at now in Texas and you're like, it's so much better for my kids here because my kids are hardly even ever in the house.
Right.
I don't police my kids on what they can and can't do with their devices. I don't set screen times. I don't do anything. They manage it all their own. Mm-hmm. All my kids get 4.0 GPAs. My kids go to the soccer field. They can walk to the soccer field from here. They can walk to the park from here. They can go to the lake from here. So you're absolutely right. What do we need? What do you need all that space for when you have people plugged in? And that's exactly one of the biggest reasons why I left where I was and came here, because I was like, I got to have my kids, like, the dopamine reset for them, just the way they need sunlight, like just, it's not happening today. And all these kids are angry, mad, and it's just, and again, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's just such a valid point because you can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you have all of these corporations that are competing with private citizens to purchase property, this idea that home ownership was the American dream, I didn't really buy into that when I started really understanding economics, because business ownership is the American dream, because that's where you get the greatest return on your investment. But also the possibility for those people that aren't entrepreneurial to have the possibility for upward mobility. Like that's really the American dream, is to say, you know what? I at least have a say in how much money I decide to make. That's really what the dream is. And so if I want to work and have the stability of not having to have a business that fails, 100%, I'm a big believer in that. And so the more corporations get involved in this process, in this experiment that we call democracy, the more we start teetering towards instability. And so you talked about the person that was having a conversation with Tucker Carlson saying the reason why we don't have revolution is because we have guns. But there are places where lots of people have guns and they have civil war. And that's equally as problematic, because people within one's borders are being killed and there's no unifying force to fight a common enemy, because you have to jump on one side or the other. And so I just think that we have to be very careful. And as we wrap up this podcast, we also have to be very careful in this whole experiment of public discourse. It's great that you and I, who disagree on so many points politically, can have a setting like this where we can have a free flow of ideas, because we agree with more things than we disagree on. And the things we disagree on, we're never going to convince the other to see the other side, because we have very strongly set philosophies. But I'm willing and open to listening to you and your point of view. And you've also proven to me through your actions that you're willing and open to listen to my point of view, and we can continue to have these conversations. And so, Chris, as we wrap up, man, I just want to say that it's a privilege and it's a pleasure to have these types of conversations, because my hope is that we model what dialogue looks like amongst people who maybe disagree on some of the things, but fundamentally agree on many other things, because we give each other the time and the space to articulate our ideas to each other.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, after you say all of that, you can look at it and go, okay, what's the common denominator? What brings them together? Well, we both enjoy family. We both have kids. We're both married, and commerce. We're both entrepreneurs. So that's America. We like family. We like values. We like Christian values. We like entrepreneurship and business. And outside of that, everything else is just talk and conversation. And how can we make it work? So we're set together on those core principle foundations of family and faith and business, real Christian value. All of these things that come together for us creates this common platform for us. Now, whether or not Trump is going to beat Obama in drone strikes? I don't know yet, but I really hope, because I like my guy to win, I really hope he does. And see, that is the point.
Wait,
So
when you say win, you mean like to do it less, right? Is that what you mean?
I hope he beats him in the drone strikes so I can say my guy has more drone strikes than yours, but I don't think, man, because your guy's an overachiever.
It's the wrong fight to win, bro.
Obama is an overachiever. I mean, that guy's an overachiever. He was just like, drone strike here and then drone strike there, right? But
and he wants to be the greatest drone striker in the history of the world, right?
Hey, you know what? I would love, and this is coming from somebody who I'm not in that camp at all. I'd love to see Michelle Obama run for president. I think it would be the craziest, most epic thing in the world to see her campaign and to see Obama take second seat to her. I would love to see that happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it'll ever happen because that guy's got way too much ego to let his wife run for president over him. I don't even think
that's it, bro. I think she just.
What do you think it is?
She has no. I think she saw I believe she saw the underbelly of the political world and said, "You know what, bro? That is not for me. I do not. It's scummy. It's nasty. It's dirty, and I don't want any part of it. I want to be able to look my kids in the eyes and say, you know what? I elected not to participate once I got a glimpse of what it was really about."
Let me ask you this wild card question. This is a wild card question here. Because obviously, there's rumors and there's all that stuff. It's cooled down a little bit, but the divorce rumors between them, or they're not happy with each other rumors. You know what I'm talking about, right? The Obamas.
I've heard of it. They both dispelled it, by the way.
Yeah, and people would dissect their social media. Oh, a loner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think though that she got a little upset with him on a couple things or a few things where you're like, you know what I mean? Do you think she did as a wife? Do you think she? Because she's a very strong woman, and she's got to take that back position to him. Do you think there's a few times where she kind of went Barack? You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Where you get one of those things from your wife, where you're like, Len, Christopher,
right.
Or Barack. You think there was a couple Barack? I think there were a couple moments, especially towards the end of his presidency, where she kind of Barack, what the heck, dude?
Yeah,
because I'll be honest with you,
I think every single president. What'd you say?
I said, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Barack fan at all, Len, but I had respect for him when he was in office, and I think he did a good job. I think he did. There's a lot of things I don't agree, but I think he did a pretty level, steady job.
He was a decent, common. He was a decent human being. Yes, no doubt about it. Okay, so to answer your question, nah, not at all. I think to answer your question, I think what I truly believe is that every first lady who's ever been in the office saw things, heard things, experienced things, and learned things that they had no clue existed. And I think there was an ugly reality that they all found and saw and had to stay up at night trying to reconcile it. Because I just think when you think about politics and the underhandedness that goes along with it, if you have any level of decency and morality, you probably have experienced things that you never would have thought would happen. And I think there's probably moments that every first lady was like, honey, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to say that? Are you really going to allow that to happen? I see with my own eyes. So I know you even see more than me because I'm not in the briefings with you. I'm not in the Oval Office with you when you talk to all of you. And what I see is problem. And so I don't think he's the first or the last. I think he was the 43rd one. I think he was the 43rd.
I think women are more, in general, men are hardwired more so to just kind of be able to do that with that.
Do with the logic of it, yeah, but the emotion of it that has a harder toll.
Women are more hardwired to go like, whereas men go, I see what you're saying, and I am too, and I'm not going to show that, but this is we've got to do this. It is
This
what it is.
comes
We got to
with
do
the
this.
territory.
This is the only solution we have. It's the most pragmatic solution we have. And
It's the lesser
the woman's
of
like,
two
blah,
evils.
blah, blah. Right,
Right.
exactly. So, yeah, I just thought I'd close at that and ask you that because it just came and I was like, damn, that's some compelling points. But we could talk about that later. But
For sure.
yeah, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Len, as always, phenomenal conversation. And again, we'll see how things wrap up here for the rest of the year. And how things go. And again, like, subscribe if you like the content. We'd love to hear from you as well. Len, any last final thoughts before we close out?
Just continue to be open to what truth actually is. Don't live in echo chambers. So with that being said, take care, everybody. Till next time.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.